Good day, this is Khesia Capul and I am with my partner Maya Pipios and we are about to discuss the Rizal's life, exile, trial, execution, and martyrdom. So to start, Rizal's exile in the Bitan. So Rizal was brought under a maximum security to the steamer SS Cebu headed by Captain Delgras on the 15th of July 1892, which sailed to the Bitan. So on his way, Rizal carried a letter coming from by Father Pablo Pastels, a superior of the Jesuit Society in the Philippines, to Father Antonio Obag, a Jesuit missionary in the Bitan. So, Father Passes informed Father Obag that Rizal could live at the parish convert on the following conditions. So these conditions are, so the first one is that Rizal could publicly reject his errors concerning religion and make statements that were clearly pro-Spanish and against revolution. So the second one, that he performs the church rites and make a general confessions of his past life. And the third and last one condition is that henceforth he conducts himself in an exemplary manner as a Spanish subject and a man of religion. But then Rizal did not agree with these conditions. Consequently, he lived in the house of Commandant Captain Carnicero, so the relations between Carnicero, the warden, and Rizal, the prisoner, were warm and friendly. Carnicero came to know that Rizal was not a common fellow and much less a filibustero. He gave good reports on his prisoner to Governor Despojol. He gave him complete freedom to go anywhere, reporting only once a week at his office, and permitted Rizal, who was a good equestrian, to ride his chestnut horse. So Rizal on his part admired the kind and generous Spanish captain. He then wrote a poem at Don Ricardo Carnicero on August 26, 1892, on the occasion of the captain's birthday. So Rizal wins in Manila lottery. On September 21, 1892, the sleepy town of Dapitan burst in hectic excitement. The mailboat Butuan was approaching the town of Dapitan carrying a lottery ticket number 9736, jointly owned by the Captain Carnicero. Dr. Rizal and Francisco Equilor won the second prize of 20,000 pesos in the government-owned Manila lottery. So from 20,000 pesos of his prize, 6,000 of it are Rizal's share. 2,000 pesos he gave to his father, 200 pesos to Basa in Hong Kong, and the rest of his money he invested it by purchasing agricultural lands along the coast of Talisay. Rizal Pastel's debate on religion. So the debate started when Pastels sent Rizal a book by Sarda along with an advice that Rizal should desist from his mahaderas or foolishness in viewing religion from the perspective of individual judgment and self-esteem. So the debate can be read in four letters. Rizal was bitter against the friars because they commit abuses under the cloak of religion. Father Pastos tried to bring back to Catholicism Rizal by telling him that human intelligence is limited, thus he needs the guidance of God. Behind the debate, Pastos and Rizal were friends as evidently pictured when Pastos gave Rizal a copy of Imitation de Cristo by Father Thomas Kempis. So while Rizal gave Pastos a bust of Saint Paul, which he had made, Rizal continued to hear Mass and celebrate religious events. So Rizal challenges a Frenchman to a duel. So while Rizal was still debating with Father Pastos by means of exchange of letters, Rizal became involved in a quarrel with a French acquaintance. So Mr. Juan Lardet, French businessman whom Rizal had a conflict, this man purchased many logs were poor of quality. Miranda indiscreetly forwarded Lardet's letter to Rizal. When Rizal read Lardet's letter, he flared up in anger regarding the Frenchman's unsavory comment as an affront his integrity. Immediately, he confronted Lardet and challenged him to a duel. So, a fact is, Rizal is an expert in martial arts, particularly in fencing and pistol shooting. My friend, you have not a Chinaman's chance in a fight with Rizal on a field of honor. Rizal is an expert in martial arts, particularly in fencing and pistol shooting, said by Captain Carnicero. Then Lardet wrote a letter to Rizal in French dated the Pitan, March 30, 1893, apologizing for insulting comment. It is interesting to recall that twice before his sensitivity caused him to challenge people to duel, Antonio Luna in 1890 and W. Iritana in the same year. Rizal and Father Sanchez. Father passes aside from his personal efforts to persuade Rizal to discard his errors. Religion instructed two Jesuits in Mindanao, so Father Ubag of Tapitan and Father Jose Villaclara Cura of Tipolog, to try their best to bring back Rizal within the Catholic fold. So, Father Francisco de Paula Sanchez, he was the only Spanish priest to defend Rizal's Noli Me Tangere in public. He was the most beloved and esteemed by Rizal. He failed persuading Rizal to discard his unorthodox views on Catholic religion. On his birthday, Rizal gave him a precious gift, a manuscript entitled Estudios sobre la lengua Tagala. It means studies in Tagalog language, a Tagalog grammar which Rizal wrote and which he dedicated to his beloved former teacher. Rizal idyllic life in Napitan. Rizal had an exemplary life, idyllic in serenity. He built his house by the seashore of Talisay, surrounded by fruit trees. He had also another house for his schoolboys and hospital for his patients. So among his family members who visited Rizal were his mother, his sisters Trinidad, Maria, and Narcisa, nephews Teodosio, Stanislao, Mauricio, and Prudencio. So to describe his life in the Dapitan, Rizal wrote Blumentritt on December 1893. Rizal's encounter with the friar spy of Pablo Mercado. So this spy with the assumed name of Pablo Mercado and posing as a relative. So he introduced himself as a friend and relative, showing a photo of Rizal and a pair of buttons with the initial PM Pablo Mercado as evidence of this kindship with the Rizal family. The strange visitor offered his service as a confidential courier of Rizal's letters and writings for the patriots in Manila. So, irked by the impostor's lie, he wanted to throw him out of the house, but mindful of his duty as a host, and considering the late hour of the night and heavy rainfall, his hospitality invited the wanted visitor to stay at his house for the night, and early next day he sent him away. Rizal went to the Comandancia and denounced the impostor of Captain Juan Sitges. The real name of Pablo Mercado was Florencio Namanan, single, about 30 years old, native of Cagayan de Misamis, hired by the Recollect friars to a secret mission in the Pitan. So, forwarded the transcripts of the investigations to Governor General Blanco, and Rizal's letter to his brother-in-law Manuel T. Hidalgo, written in the Pitan, December 30, 1893. So Rizal, a physician in Dapitan. So Rizal practiced medicine in Dapitan. He had many patients, but most of them are poor, so that he even gave them free medicine. He wrote a letter to his friend in Hong Kong, Dr. Marquez. Here are the people are so poor that I have even to give medicine. Rather, so in August 1893, his mother and Sister Maria arrived in Dapitan and lived with him for 1 year and a half. Rizal operated on his mother right eye. He had many patients who came from different parts of the Philippines and even from Hong Kong. He had Richmond patients named Don Ignacio Tumarong, paid him a 3,000 pesos. An Englishman, Don Florencio Azacaraga, paid him a cargo of sugar and became interested in the local medicine. So Rizal as an engineer, as a Pereto agrimensor expert surveyor, Rizal applied his engineering knowledge by constructing a system of waterworks to furnish clean water to the townspeople. So Mr. H. F. Cameron, an American engineer, praised Rizal for his engineering ingenuity. Rizal had drained the marshes to get rid of malaria that was infecting the Dapitan, equipped the town with lighting system using 500 pesos of his parents paid him. The lighting system consisted of coconut oil lamps, beautified the town of Dapitan by remodeling the town plaza and making a huge relief map of Mindanao out of earth, stones, and grass. So Rizal as an educator, it began with 3 pupils who increased to 16 and eventually to 21. Rizal taught his boys reading, writing, language like Spanish and English, geography, history, mathematics, arithmetic and geometry, industrial work, nature study, and morals and gymnastics. So Rizal conducted the school in Talisay. He wrote a hymno at Talisay, a poem Rizal wrote in honor of Talisay which he made his pupils sing. So contribution to science, Rizal sent specimens he found to the Museum of Europe, especially the Dresden Museum. In return, he received a scientific books and surgical instruments. So he had built up rich collection of conchology consisting of 346 shells of 203 species. He had discovered rare specimens like Rhacoporos rizali, a rare frog, Draco rizali, a flying dragon, Apogonia rizali, a small beetle. So artistic works in the Dapitan. So Rizal contributed his artistic pursuits in the Dapitan, contributed paintings to the Sisters of Charity who were preparing the sanctuary of the Holy Virgin, made sketches of persons and things that attracted him in the Dapitan, constructed a statue of a girl called the Dapitan Girl, a wood carving of Josephine Bracken, made a bust of St. Paul of Father Pastels, modeled a statuette called the Mother's Revenge to stress the moral of the incident where a puppy of his dog Insira was eaten by a crocodile. So the last one is other sculpture works of Rizal in Dapitan were a bust of Father Greco, one of his Ateneo professors. So Rizal as a farmer. In Dapitan, Rizal devoted much of his time to agriculture. He bought 16 hectares of land in Talisay, but later he acquires more lands until his total holding of 70 hectares containing 6,000 hemp plants, 1,000 coconut trees, and numerous fruit trees, sugarcane, corn, coffee, and cacao. So then he encouraged the Pitan farmers to adopt the modern agricultural method. Rizal dreamed of establishing an agricultural colony in the city of Punot near Sindagan Bay, where there was plenty of water and good port facilities. Rizal as a businessman, in partnership with Ramon Carrion, a Dapitan merchant, Ramon Carrion Rizal's business made profitable business ventures in fishing, copra, and hemp industries. Hemp industry Rizal's most profitable business. Once he shipped 150 bales of hemp to Manila, he purchased hemp in the Dapitan at 7 pesos and release per pickle, and he sold it to Manila at 10 pesos and for release. Rizal also engaged in lime manufacturing. Their lime burner had a monthly capacity of more than 400 bags of lime. He organized the cooperative associations of the peasant farmers to break Chinese monopoly. As a linguist, continuing his study of languages, Rizal learned in the Pitan, Visayan, Subanon, and Malay languages. So he knew by that time 22 languages as follows: Tagalog, Malay, Ilocano, Hebrew, Visayan, Sanskrit, Subanon, Dutch, Spanish, Catalan, Latin, Italian, Greek, Chinese, English, Japanese, French, Portuguese, German, Swedish, Arabic, and Russian. So Rizal is an inventor. Among Rizal's inventions were cigarette lighter, which he sent as a gift to Blumentritt, called Sulpukan. The second one, a wooden machine for making bricks. So my retreat, upon restoring her eyesight, Donna Theodora returned in Manila, seeing how busy Rizal is. She regretted neglecting her muses, so she requested Rizal to write a poetry as a response. Rizal wrote a Mi Ritero relating his serene life as an exile in Dapitan. So Rizal and Josephine Bracken. The death of Leonor Rivera left a poignant void in Rizal's heart. In his loneliness, he met Josephine. Josephine is an Irish girl born in Hong Kong. James Bracken and Elizabeth Jane MacBride, Josephine's parents, who are both Irish in citizenship. Mr. George Stauffer, man who adopted Josephine after her mother her died of childbirth. Mr. Stauffer became blind, so he thought for an ophthalmic specialist. So Manuela Orlac, Filipina companion who accompanied Josephine Bracken to the Pitan. So Rizal and Josephine Bracken decided to get married, but Father Ubag refused to marry them without the permission of Bishop of Cebu. So hearing of the planned marriage and unable to endure of losing Josephine, Mr. Taufer tried to commit suicide by cutting off his throat with a razor, but Rizal was able to prevent this. To avoid tragedy, Josephine accompanied Mr. Taffer back to Manila. So Mr. Taffer returned to Hong Kong alone while Josephine stayed with the Rizals in Manila. Having no priests to marry them, Rizal and Josephine married themselves before the eyes of God. God. So the two were happy, for they were expecting for baby. However, Rizal played a prank on Josephine, making her give birth to an 8-month baby boy. The baby lived for only 3 hours. He was named Francisco in honor of Rizal's father. Rizal and the Katipunan. So Pio Valenzuela, emissary to the Pitan, in order to inform Rizal of the plan of Katipunan during the meeting at the little river called Bitukang Manok. Venus steamer Valenzuela boarded to reach the Pitan. Raimundo Mata, blind man who became with Valenzuela to camouflage his mission. Rizal objected Bonifacio's project because first, the people are not ready for a revolution. Second, the arms and funds must first be collected before raising the cry of revolution. So volunteers as military doctor in Cuba. When Cuba was under revolution and raging yellow fever epidemic, Rizal wrote to Governor General Ramon Blanco offering his services as a military doctor. Governor Blanco later notified Rizal of the acceptance of the offer. The notification came along with an instruction of acquiring first a pass for Manila from the politico-military commander of the Pitan. The Song of the Traveler. Upon receiving the acceptance of his offer to go to Europe, then to Cuba, to help in the curing of patients suffering yellow fever, he wrote a poem, El Canto del Viajero. Hispania's steamer, which brought Rizal to Manila from the Pitan, Rizal was accompanied by Josephine, Narcissa, Angelica, which Narcissa's daughter, has three nephews and six pupils. So, as farewell, the town brass of the Pitan played the Dolores funeral march of Chupin. He stayed in the Pitan for 4 years, 13 days, and a few hours. So, to proceed, Rizal's trial. So, Rizal was subjected to a grueling 5-day investigation. He was informed of charges against him. He answered the questions asked by Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive, but he was not permitted to confront those who testified against him. So, two kinds of evidences were presented to him: documentary and testimonial. So, the documentary evidences were a letter of Antonio Luna to Mario Ponce, dated Madrid, October 16, 1888, showing Rizal's connection with the Filipino Reform campaign in Spain. Second, a letter of Rizal to his family, dated Madrid, August 20, 1892, stating that the deportations are good, for they will encourage the people to hate tyranny. Third, a letter from Marcelo H. del Pilar to Diodato Arellano, dated Madrid, January 1889, implicating Rizal in the propaganda campaign in Spain. Fourth, a poem entitled Condiman, allegedly written by Rizal in Manila on September 12, 1891. Fifth, a letter of Carlos Oliver to an unidentified person, dated Barcelona, September 18, 1891, describing Rizal as the man to free the Philippines from Spanish oppression. Sixth, a Masonic document dated Manila, February 9, 1892, honoring Rizal for his patriotic services. Seventh, a letter signed Dimalasang to Tenlos Juan Zulueta's pseudonym, dated Hong Kong, May dated May 24, 1892, stating that he was preparing a safe refuge for Filipinos who may be persecuted by the Spanish authorities. 8. A letter of Dimalasang to an unidentified committee, dated Hong Kong, June 1, 1892, soliciting the aid of committee in the patriotic work. Ninth, an anonymous and undated letter to the editor of Hong Kong Telegraph, censuring the banishment of Rizal to the Pitan. 10. A letter of Ildefonso Laurel to Rizal, dated Manila, September 3, 1892, saying that the Filipinos people look up to him, Rizal, as their savior. 11th, a letter of Rizal II, dated Manila, September 1893, informing an unidentified correspondent of the arrest and banishment of Borosio Cortes and Ambrosio Salvador. 12. A letter of Marcelo H. del Pilar to Juan Tenlos, dated Madrid, June 1, 1893, recommending the establishment of a special organization independent of Masonry to help the cause of Filipino people. 13. Transcript of speech of Pinkian Emilio Jacinto is a reunion of the Katipunan on July 23, 1893, in which the following cry was uttered: long live the Philippines, long live liberty, long live Dr. Rizal, unity. So, 14. The transcript of speech of Tiktik Jose Toriano Santiago in the same Katipunan reunion, wherein the Katipuneros shouted, "Long live the eminent Dr. Rizal, death to the oppressor nation." 15. A poem of Laong Laan entitled Atalisay, in which the author makes the debutant schoolboys sing that they know how to fight for their rights. To proceed, testimonial evidences of there are 13 people for this. So, first, Martin Constantino. Second, Aguedo del Rosario. Third, Jose Reyes. Fourth, Moises Salvador. Fifth, Jose Dizon. Sixth, Pio Valenzuela. Seven, Ambrosio Salvador. Eight, Francisco Quezon. Nine, Timoteo Paez. 10, Diodato Arellano. 11, Pedro Serrano Lactao. 12, Antonio Salazar. 13, Domingo Franco. Olive transmitted the records of the case to Governor General Ramon Blanco, who in return appointed Captain Rafael Dominguez as the judge advocate to institute the corresponding action against Rizal. So Peña's recommendations. So first, Rizal must be immediately sent to trial. Second, he must be held in prison under necessary security. Third, his properties must be issued with the order of attachment, and as indemnity, Rizal had to pay 1 million pesos. So the fourth is, instead of a civilian lawyer, only an army officer is allowed to defend Rizal. Rizal's arraignment, December 11, 1896. So Rizal was charged with the crime of rebellion and the formation of illegal association, but he did not question the jurisdiction of the court. He had nothing to amend except that during his exile in the Pitan in 1892, he had not dealt in political matters. He had nothing to admit on the charge against him. He had nothing to admit on the declarations of the witnesses. He had not met nor knew against him. On December 13, 1896, while in detention, Rizal released a manifesto that he denounces the revolution and condemned Katipunan for using his name without his permission. So, actual trial, December 26, 1896, Hall of Banners of the Cuartel de España. He was accused with 3 crimes: rebellion, sedition, and illegal associations. So the penalty of this is life imprisonment, death for rebellion and sedition, correctional imprisonment, and a fine of 325 to 350 pesetas for illegal association, December 26, 1896. So there are 12-point defense of Rizal. So, as testified by Pio Valenzuela, Rizal was against rebellion. Second, he had not written a letter addressed to the Katipunan comprising revolutionary elements. Third, without his knowledge, his name was used by the Katipunan. If he really was guilty, he could have escaped while was in Singapore. So fourth, if he was guilty, he should have left the country while in exile. He shouldn't have built a home and bought a parcel of land or established a hospital in Dapitan. Fifth, if he was really the leader of the revolution, the revolutionists should have consulted him. Sixth, he did not deny that he wrote by the laws of the La Liga Filipina, but to make things clear, the organization was a civic association, not a revolutionary society. Seventh, after the first meeting of La Liga, the association vanished because of his exile in the Pitan, thus did not last long. If the La Liga was recognized 9 months later, he had no idea about it. Ninth, if the La Liga had a revolutionary purpose, then Katipunan should not have been organized. 10th, if the Spanish authorities have found his letters having bitter atmosphere, it was because in 1890 his family was being persecuted, resulting to their disposition of properties and deportation of all his brothers-in-law. 11th, he lived an exemplary life in the Pitan. The politico-military commanders and missionary priests in the province could attest to that. 12th, last one, if according to witnesses, the speech he delivered at Durecio, Ongenco because House had inspired the revolution, then he wanted to confront these persons. If he really was for the revolution, then why did the Katipunan send an unfamiliar emissary to him in the Pitan? It is because all his friends were aware that he never advocated violence. So Governor General Camilo de Poliviaja, December 28, 1896, he approved the decision of the court martial and ordered Rizal to be shot at 7 o'clock in the morning of December 30 at Bagumbayan Field.